Today's conversation is Lonely at the Top. And William and I are recent founders for Reflection Point Advisors, and we enjoy sharing with all of you the things that we're learning as we go. So the conversation, we named it Lonely at the Top because it comes from something we see often with founders and business owners. So the business is moving, everything's growing, things are working, and there's a lot more that could be done, but the owner is carrying more than they should. Enough to be up on a Saturday night at 2 a.m., right, William?
A few times, right? I'm sure as well. So that's where we are.
But that's what we want to talk about. We want to talk about how to even it out and how to know that you might be the bottleneck. So there's a systemic way that we have developed that we would like to share with other founders, that we are starting to find things to even out and just be more equal so that we can be more present and do better at the work that we do. One quick note is that LinkedIn Live, there's a bit of a delay. So when we ask a question, just because we don't go right back to it, please feel free to keep adding comments. We'll circle back to it eventually. I think it's about a minute delay. Like it's a substantial.
Yeah, it starts out at 15 seconds and somehow it just over time, I think it just expands to be more of a up to 3 minutes. So we built this model around making some comments at the beginning of each of our sections today so that you can jump in and if you want to use the comment section, and we'll do some reviewing that toward the end so that we've had a chance to let the time logs catch up and talk with you effectively.
And everybody will get an email afterwards, of course.
Okay.
So William, it's all you, brother.
Well, okay. So thanks, Terry, for already doing some of the great introductions here. And for those of you, if you've built a business, boy, you know this feeling, right? We hear these from people. Something often feels off. You can't put your finger on it. Sometimes you are thinking, boy, I wish I had someone who sees the whole business like I do, and not just, this person who understands this part of it and that person who understands that part of it. You need a team, and those are some challenges we all face, even as Terry had just mentioned, us as founders. And getting someone to help you in that way is hard. So we wanted to spend a little time today to first relate on that. A lot runs through you. Frankly, you could be the bottleneck. Pressure runs through you. Payroll runs through you. Other people's expectations run through you. So even in a really healthy business, or maybe if some of the family businesses we've talked to have been around for 70 years, some of them have been around for 5. And so there's different challenges that every business has. And the biggest thing is, how do you balance working on the business versus in the business? And I think that's a big challenge for everybody. So as we think through that, what we want to do today is just put some language around this, give you some structure, give you some confidence, and we're going to look at 3 areas particularly today. So I want to talk about 3 particular challenges founders are going to face, and we'll share some stories that we've had with founders we've worked with, and go from there. And Terry, if you keep an eye on, I think our man in the background, Mr. Danny, is keeping an eye on the comments. So he'll.
Okay, great. Let's go ahead and get started on those, if you don't mind. Can I just throw this chat out?
Yes, please.
Start us off in the chat with one word. What feels heaviest for you right now as an owner?
Yeah. And as you're thinking about that, I'll recap again. We're going to talk about how some of the challenges we think are pretty obvious and need to have some kind of conversation about today. It's about incomplete information and decision making. That's one of the biggest things. Is people have, as founders, you're trying to make these quick decisions. You're trying to do the best you can. So how do you think through that a little bit more effectively? That's point 1. Point 2 is, how can you better carry the emotional weight of being a founder and being a business owner? And then point 3 is going to be a little more practical, where you could go with some things that might be helpful tips and tools. And so thank you, Terry, for getting that. And as those come in, here's one of the patterns that I've been seeing for a long time. Businesses slow down when things stop lining up, right? So we know that plan that you had starts drifting, the people start drifting, the owner has a different appeal and a feel, the staff don't necessarily have the same feel, or you're solo and you're feeling like you're not sure where to spend your time right now, this is the strain. This is the weight. And that's what we want to talk about. Now, decision making in that context is really what I wanted to kind of go into first. So this is what I meant by incomplete information. You know, for a lot of owners, you're going to feel like that's a big struggle. You're too central. Again, approvals, problem solving, relationship management, key decisions. When all of that's happening, figuring out how to handle that alone, yet you also want to grow and you want to build this into something that you started when maybe the original dream has changed a little bit, or you're sort of trying to figure it out as you go along, which I think is true of all of us. It's pulling too much energy at the wrong points and such. So that's where first, how do you do this on your own? Well, the answer is we were built for community, and people are built for relationships, and you have to have that. One of the challenges when you have staff is how do you be the leader and convey and be transparent with any of those?
There's a lot of things you can't talk about with your staff
right.
when you are in charge.
Exactly. Thank you for that. That's so. There's usually a relationship. You start looking for one here or there. You try to find a peer group, or you try to find somebody that's not a competitor. These are starting points that are not bad. Sometimes people actually, I recommend it, and Terry and I have seen it firsthand how successful it can be. Bringing in a good example would be a financial person who's really talented with that. We have someone that's we've brought in. I just did a working session yesterday with someone where he came in for an hour over Zoom while we met together with the business founders. And I mean, we exited that meeting more confident, more clear. And, sometimes just math just helps bring truth. There's a certain element to that. So I do love that about the financial element, but sometimes it's your HR and your leadership skills. Sometimes it's trying to figure out how do you manage the people better. So these different things, people start looking for advisors, but then guess how much energy you're spending trying to find those people. And trust them and know if that's the right fit. So where we've kind of been positioning ourselves, just for some context here, is we found those people and we've already got them. And if we don't even have them exactly down, we know the model and the approach to find them, and we have the network to connect and find them. So, I mean, I think that's a big element of what founders get stuck on, is trying to solve their own problems and then try to figure out who to trust to help them solve their problems is another decision-making problem. So when it's outside your own lane, that's just kind of you've got to realize that you're a specialist in what you do, and you can't be a specialist in everything else. And I know that sounds crazy, but people are here to help each other, and that can start in a very meaningful, just light complimentary conversation sometimes with people. So we need to think about that. And then our own lane, anyway, when Terry and I are meeting with people, it tends to be because of our backgrounds, it tends to be marketing, operations, and technology. But HR, legal, these are not specializations that everyone has, and but we've got great contacts, and we want to help you know about those people to help you through your situations. So I think that's one of the most overlooked things, is that you can't solve everything, and you need to find people you trust, and you need to find a group that you can trust them. So that's my big point for number one, is that you don't want to add a search process on top of being a founder to find everybody you need. That's just complicated. I mean, I know we all have those decisions in life where we have those networks of our own, but are they the ones that you need for the moment? Are they too close to you to be able to trust? And sometimes that's it. I think that's going outside is a good for a lot of founders. That's a key piece. So
I'm going to throw another chat option for everybody.
Yeah, please.
Put a yes or no in the chat. If you stepped away for 2 weeks, would your business noticeably slow down, or would it stop and fail? Let us know if that's something that you've thought about. Like, I would like to go to the Bahamas next week, but I'm going to be working instead. That's what a lot of founders have to do. There's a lot of sacrifice because you are the central hub for all decisions. And I think what your advisors, as a co-leader with you, what your advisors that you have introduced me through in your network, it's an education process as well. So as a owner and a founder, based on those relationships, those advisors, I'm learning too. So some of the decisions and things that I might have to outsource right now, because of the experience with the advisors in an ongoing basis, I'm getting smarter, I'm getting better. And then those relationships with the advisors tend to be more of a monthly or quarterly check-in after a while. So you're getting an education as you go.
There's a deep dive element to figuring out, specific problems once they're identified, but then it becomes more of a rotating maintenance. And we've moved as an industry. We've seen this too from the career advisorship that we do for a lot of professionals looking for their next great role, that a lot of people are moving into fractional positions. And so there's some really great talent that would never have been accessible to small to mid-market businesses before, because they would have only gone to a Fortune 500. Well, those wonderful, talented contacts that Terry, you've helped over the years and I've supported you on, are also part of our extended network of advisors when we bring in. So it's great to have those people.
People tend to like you when you help them find a job.
That's true. It's true. We've made a lot of good friends over the years.
Yeah, really cool people. I've learned things from my clients. That's the best part about this role.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit more about the weight of what it is that you carry too. And then we'll kind of go into some other items. And before the end of this call, I want to talk about the 7 dimensions that every founder should really be looking at, in our opinion, to identify and look for any signals of where it may be doing great, a little bit off, or needs a lot of support. And that fits in with some things I'll talk about after this. I want to talk about, again, 1 minute you're moving strategically, the next minute you're solving a team issue. If you're in a hands-on business, maybe you're the one jumping in to solve the problem, coding or putting up some kind of framing or whatever that looks like, handling, a minute later, the financial question. This weighs on a person more than they realize. And you can start to be very tired and question if you're even doing the right thing, if you should even be running a business. I mean, let's face it, we've had that thought. All of us who work hard have the energy in one moment to say, this is the best thing ever. And to the next, it says, whew, I could take a break and I could do something, maybe when someone would just pay me and I could just sleep. But ultimately, we always come back as founders to the fact that we love what we do and we just want to do it better and do it more and do it well. And so that's the question, is how do I get more done? Where does my time actually belong? And that's the founder questions that you should be asking yourselves, because some work truly does belong to the owner. I mean, there's no way around that. But there's a lot of work that stays there and bottlenecks up, because nobody had the room, support, or clarity to figure it out, or how to transfer it, or how to hand it off. And then once you start sorting that out, that's when you can start releasing some of that pressure and again, start enjoying more of your work. So I think that's key, Terry. And I think you already, I think we had another chat prompt a little bit around that, or maybe you asked it earlier when I was shuffling papers.
Am I on 2 or 3?
3.
Oh, I'm on 3. Okay, so put one thing. I got to catch up, William. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It may have to do with the fact that
chat that takes more of your time than it should.
One thing in chat that takes more of your time than it should. Yes, that's good, because I think that's going to come to people pretty quickly for a lot of you out there. Founders tend to know where their time leaks are. The harder part is it estimating? Is it one part of the work that you do on a regular basis, that follow-ups, calls, setting appointments, any of these things that probably this is the moment you can take a second to think, boy, that would be better if someone else did that. And I could do these other things. We all really need to stop. And the session yesterday, is going back as a more immediate example, those business owners are working hard, like 50, 60 hours. They are energized. They've got opportunity, but they still need to stop and reflect and be on the same page as leaders together. And that's not planned for well. And we're bringing that structure to our clients as we help them build a model that continues to look at everything together. And again, sometimes the owner is the fastest person. That's a challenge, because I know in this one example, that business, the top person is the best at everything he does. So is it going to have that level of bestness if his team isn't as skilled or as qualified? No, in every industry, that's going to be the reality. So you have to decide how you're going to balance that, who you can bring up to a certain level of skill to be more effective. Or one of the things that I thought was a great suggestion for the CFO was make sure you're not doing too many different things. You've really got to dial in on, if you're home and quality and you're in construction, maybe you need to be the bathroom expert, right? That's sort of the example, to sort of, put something to this, as well as there's another challenge that I think a lot of people have when it comes to the weight of ownership is everything feels too important to hand off. That's, I got to do that. I got to do that. And hey, guilty as charged. And I appreciate that I have to come back to my own principles with Terry and the amazing team we have here to think through.
Or you hand it off and it comes back and you didn't communicate effectively on the front end what the expectation was. And so it's not quite exactly. And so now you've got a relationship internally challenged because you got to make some changes to the work that was done. So it's about communication. I mean, it comes down to really effectively knowing what you can handle and what you can hand off, and then effectively communicating the outcome that you're seeking and being willing to allow it to be something different once in a while so that you can keep the relationship and build that employee up. So they'll do more. They'll help you more.
Yeah. And I think founders have to remember that founders are the owners of the business. So they're going to have a different level of expectation about what gets done. Team and leadership, these roles, the structures, how you compensate people, that's really should be what drives those other people. I mean, they want to be inspired by a good leader. So you need to be a good communicator. Team and leadership is one of those 7 dimensions I'll talk about in a minute. But you also have to remember they're not motivated the same way as you are. So you really have to understand what you need from them and what's important to them. I think that's good. Sometimes the business also has grown around the strengths of the founder. So everything naturally keeps routing back. Maybe look at some of the talent of your team that you could extend. And because over time, that's going to narrow the business around one person still. One last thought on this is around finding spaces to think. So, founders need room to think, and you feel like, well, I can't do that. I can't step back. I can't do that. Well, you have to. The kind of space usually has to be protected on purpose, and you have to be intentional. And if you have accountability with other leaders in your organization, you need to make that time. One organization that we just helped them with the communication project, it was kind of one-off because of our background with marketing, tech, and ops. We actually helped them with a website redesign to re-engage their audience, as well as reorganize and represent who they are, which helped them on a lot of levels. They, on a quarterly basis, though, step out of their workspace, rent a conference room in a co-working area, and they intentionally have meeting time and lunchtime as a leadership team to work through just where they are. And they usually do this. They're also, if you're familiar with the EOS operating system model, they like to use that. That's not the best thing for small businesses that are 1 or 2 people, but as soon as you've got a team of 5 to 10 people and you're managing a regular recurring growth or set of responsibilities, you've got to have that. So look up EOS if you haven't heard of it, but only really the Traction book is what it's called. Traction, right, Terry?
Yeah.
I think that's it.
Yep.
Only look at that if you're a big enough business that's at least 3 to 5 people already. And on that communication, just another practical tip, since we're getting into the path forward and some other things. If your team is already larger than 5 people, you should be thinking about what other mechanisms you're using to communicate on a regular basis, and where tools and technology fit in. That's one of my other areas of passion. We've been able to see a lot of change through the AI toolings that's come out. One especially interesting area with the Claude AI platform and Anthropic's products is that if you're using Slack as a software to connect, it has a built-in tag that basically works as a micro agent that follows along and works with different people and keeps everything connected like a giant virtual assistant that can actually understand what's going on across different communications and different chat windows and different responsible parties. So I think there's things like that people don't realize that can help them, but it can feel a little overwhelming to step into that kind of change, right?
Absolutely. And there's so many options. And I think people are still playing. We're still in that phase of, so now ChatGPT has work and we have Cowork on the other side, and Claude. And so it's like, I use Gemini now too, because you did and showed me some other things that I could be doing. So it's not just one, there's lots of toys out there.
It is. And yeah, I'd like to keep the ChatGPT as a personal tool. I like to keep Claude as a professional tool where we built out projects and we built out a spine of information that is linked to Google Drive, but also to the projects that we all share. So we have a unified voice and an audit against anything we're doing. So those things might feel overly complicated to set up, but they're not. And we have an amazing team here that helps our clients when it comes to that kind of solutioning. Let's kind of dive into section 3. The last piece of this is the path forward. So what's the pressure? Where do you begin? And I'm going to see if I can hit share on this screen correctly and see if I'm down in the corner. Is that cool or is that weird? Let's see. Did that work?
Yep.
Is it? Let's see. Okay. So what we're looking at here is just a quick snapshot of 7 different areas that every business, could. In fact, I think it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think it accidentally posted twice. That was an accident. I was actually trying to get the name in here. But financial vitals is one key area, and you just have to know truth in this area. No matter what happens, oftentimes we find we've got an audit, we call it, that allows you to answer some quick questions around each of these particulars. We tend to realize really quickly, how well do you know your numbers? That's all we need to talk about right now to figure out where we need to go from there. In operations and systems, this is trying to understand, again, who has what information and where is that information, because that's another piece. We like to surface what lives only in the owner's head or someone particular on your team's head. How much would it hurt if that person walked out tomorrow? How would be big, right? So we need to think through those kinds of elements. The team and leadership one, that's where I see that as, yes, it's culture, but it's also just making clear expectations so that people can actually do their jobs better. That's one of the most effective ways you can improve your business, is making sure that the work you already have inside the business or that's ongoing is running well, because that's going to improve your bottom line profits, which, hey, that tends to help everybody's situation and quality of life. When we talk about market and customers, we're talking about, are you working in a very overly saturated market? Is it highly transactional? Understanding kind of what your potential is for growth in that way as well. The strategy and peers, this is an element of more around the real priorities for the next 12 months. Look at who's in your founder's corner, building that out, making sure that you have a good, clear network. I've talked to a lot of businesses. Again, it just kind of oddly has been at times. We've had financial, but we've also had a lot of construction industry people. Making sure you even know who, not only are your strategy of your peers, but who would be very strong partners or vendors at the right time as well. So there's a bit of relationshiping there, but it kind of jumps between team and leadership if you're looking at externally partners. Lastly, the horizon. This is about, are you 10 years, 15 years away from a succession plan? Do you want a family business takeover? Are you looking for a quick payout in 3 to 5 years? These are important goals to align and make sure that everything you're doing is working towards those. And then the most important one, the first one that we really look at actually, is the owner's time. And, where are you putting that? So we have a good way of asking some questions around that through our audit process. That's the part of what we built around this owner's audit. It's basically these 7 areas of the business. How are you actually spending your time? Where's the business too dependent on you? Where are things healthy? Where are they strained? So we have a tool that people can actually go to, and you can do it even after this call. We'll send out a link to it. It's a complimentary audit you do the input, and what we're offering to do is sit down and go over some of the insights around each of those for your business, as just getting to know each of you. We're going to be able to take at least the first 10. There's a lot of people that registered for this event, so we'll see how well we can handle some of the other questions and conversations, but it'll be intentional about giving you real feedback on what your situation is telling us so far. So we're looking at signals, and we're really trying to get a color rating. We made this pretty straightforward. It's green, yellow, or red. The complexity there. And if it's yellow, it means it's kind of on the cusp of being good or bad, and red means we really need to start focusing on that. So that's a concept. And once we see that and we have a good discussion with you, you may be able to walk away and start working on one of those problems. Or you might say,
William, I was going to say, we were talking about walking through a room that is dark. that has a lot of
Yes.
different obstacles in it. And when the lights are off and you're walking through there, you're going to trip and fall. But the minute you turn the lights on, it is much easier to see those obstacles and navigate yourself from point A to point B. And so,
Right.
you
Right.
know how I am with financials. I'm like, are we green? Are we red? La 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 la. Like
I
just
keep it
want
nice.
to
You
hand.
don't want all the details. Right.
Yeah, I want all the details. I just need to know how we're doing, if I need to push it or pull it. And but I think that as an owner, we get involved in moving and pushing and guiding and doing all the facilitation things but taking that time to take a step back and not just look at it from your perspective, but
Right.
partner with and engage with experts in the different areas in order to find solutions and answers so that you can move forward with integrity and confidence.
Yeah.
Just makes everything a whole lot easier on a day-to-day basis too.
We had another business that was just trying to figure out how to bring in some of their family members into the ownership. And so just talking through what that looks like, what kind of documents. Terry and I have been through processes where we've evaluated those things. We've built our own business model. We're not trying to be people's attorneys in that way, but we're able to sort of give some high-level direction and maybe point you to the right places to go next, because those are important decisions and they need to be made in a certain order of timing. Those are things that we like to give input as well on. So once we kind of come back to the next steps in partnering and some other practical questions and the comments, we'll see if we have anything there. That owner's audit, it's already live. It's right here at the /audit. It'll take you maybe 10 minutes. There's a couple of initial questions that go through, just making sure we know the name of your company and business, years in business, get a little picture of that. And then it really won't take you long. There's literally 2 questions for each of the 7 sections. It's powerful because we're trying to get signals, not final decisions. And then we have a discussion about it. And that will lead us towards what might be some areas you need to go deep dive. And if you want us to be involved in those, we can talk about what that would look like. And then a lot of clients will work with us through a deep dive process, which is usually a 1 month type of deal, or maybe 2 months if we split it up a little bit more, because businesses have to run while building. But then, we move into something of a founder's advisory where it's more of a regular structure to each month. And we're helping that business look at one dimension at a time, bringing in outside support from our network as needed, and producing something every month that's going to help you as a record. And then what we like to do is about 6 months into the process, usually twice a year, we're going to rerun that owner's audit, just see how you respond. And we'll have a little bit more insight to see where you've grown and how far you've come. So those are some of the things we do. What matters most is getting a clear view of what's really creating weight. And these intake questions in the audit will help us guide a conversation with you for a 30 minutes to an hour, usually, conversation that is all about you, and it's all confidential. And you finally have somebody to talk to outside of your existing staff who has some new ideas, new insights. And Terry and I love doing that. So that's the kind of work we care about. And Terry, I think just kind of bringing to a close on, if that's where you are, we'll make sure we try to get that audit into the link into the to the document. But if you're watching this later, just feel free to reach out afterwards, because the same link works. And at the end of that, there's even a spot where you can pick a time for that. We've got it out at least 2 to 3 business days, so we can have some time to process and review and prepare some things for you. But it'll essentially be like a little 1 to 2 page summary of some feedback and some questions that we think are important to discuss. Let's just have a good conversation and help you grow your business.
And as William and I are constantly evaluating how we're doing, we have begun to do these events once a month on the last Thursday of the month. The 2 sides of our business, the founders support services, which we are discussing today, as well as candidate support services for senior to executive level professionals who are making changes. Maybe they're going to buy a business. Maybe they're going to go into franchise. Maybe they are going to be a corporate executive again. But we are constantly growing our network and enjoy having time to share what we're learning along the way. So we hope you'll join us again next month, and we will be posting that within the next week. Thanks for coming.
And I'll be working on blogs as well to sort of start breaking down. I'll do an overview of the audit in an upcoming blog later this month that we're going to release. So that'll give you some information. You can follow us at reflectionpointadvisors.com/blog. Just sign up at the bottom. There's a widget. Just need your name and email, and you're right there. And we will be putting this together as a recording and sharing it out to anyone who couldn't make it live to the event as well.
Thanks for coming today.
Yeah, it was great to meet you all, and we'll talk again soon.